Welcome to Secured with Dr. KJ, the podcast where we break down cybersecurity, the technologies driving it, and the companies shaping our digital future. I'm your host, Dr. Kenneth Johnson, cybersecurity leader, technologist, and strategist. Cybersecurity isn't just an IT concern, it's a business imperative. Each episode, we'll explore key topics like cloud security, zero trust, AI-driven defense, and more. We'll assess how tech leaders are adapting, where they need to improve, and what it takes to stay ahead of evolving threats. This podcast features expert insights from security professionals, industry leaders, and technologists, offering real-world solutions to modern cybersecurity challenges. Whether you're a business leader, security expert, or just curious about how technology keeps us safe, this podcast is for you. Subscribe and join the conversation as we explore cybersecurity's biggest challenges, securing tomorrow, one episode at a time. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Secured with Dr. KJ. Today, we have a special guest joining us, Unique Glover, a seasoned expert in cloud computing and cybersecurity. And with over 20 years in IT and security, Unique currently serves as the technical sales director at Microsoft, where he leads security technical sellers in crafting innovative security solutions for customers. And he holds a master's degree in cybersecurity and public policy from Georgia Tech and is certified with industry-leading credentials, including the ISC2 CISSP and CCSP. And beyond his professional achievements, Unique is passionate about giving back, advising nonprofits, and focused on STEM education. Let's dive into today's conversation. Unique, welcome to the show.
Wow, what an intro. Thank you, Doc KJ. Wow, I need to steal that and just use it for every startup of my calls. So yeah, really appreciate that. Glad to be here.
100%. No, truly appreciate it. And let's jump right in. So you working at Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
I work at Microsoft.
Yeah.
So how does Microsoft Azure and security overall compare to AWS and GCP from a security standpoint?
It's such a great question, KJ. And respectful to our competitors, AWS and GCP, both leaders in the field like Microsoft, and I've worked with them prior to Microsoft in different capacities, and I think both have respectable platforms. I think from a cloud platform, every platform, every service from Azure to GCP and AWS has its strengths and also areas of opportunities. With Azure, I think what distinguishes us from the rest is our focus on security. Quite frankly, I think beyond just the technology and the things that we'll talk about, the tooling that comes with Azure is the threat intelligence, is the investments that we've made personally at Microsoft with security research and threat intelligence, and really baking in the telemetry data that we receive from all of our services, not only just the enterprise, but the consumer, and building that into the Azure ecosystem. So we'll talk more about that a little bit later, but we have some great first-party tooling. Some of our competitors, they approach things where you can integrate with other third-party connectors, which we do as well. But in terms of first-party native tooling that people can use as they build and deploy in Azure, I think no one really touches us. We have the signaling from an intelligence perspective, and we have the tightly integration from code to compute to storage, application to identity, all in one platform with Azure.
So you're telling me we're a one-stop shop, we're a platform company, and nobody can touch us.
Nobody can touch us, respectfully. Respectfully, I think
totally understand.
I think it's we're in a class of our own. We put a lot of focus on the experience that you get when you come into our Azure environment and the ecosystem, and looking at not just providing compute storage from a IaaS or PaaS perspective, but looking at how we can enable organizations to achieve. And I think, for example, with AI, I think Azure and the Microsoft, we're the best suited company to really help companies accelerate and innovate with AI, just as we've done on the digital transformation side with modern work. When COVID happened, hybrid work, really transforming the landscape of enterprises and getting them to adopt to zero trust principles or increasing business productivity.
Yes.
Microsoft was at the lead of that. And I think in AI, which requires another transformation. It's a paradigm shift for a lot of companies. And, we just did a survey. I think there's a survey about 71% of organizations are now reallocating funding to invest in AI. And that requires scalability. It requires working with a cloud platform provider that can provide the tooling, the strategy, the assessments, the guidance from the get-go, as well as having a lot of those core principles around responsible AI, around security, around privacy, as well as the development tooling that goes with that. And most importantly, like you and I, the security front of it, making sure that security is at the foundation. And quite frankly, I think in terms of the breadth and depth of tooling from a platform perspective, we have it, and Azure should be that number one platform provider that companies look at.
No, I love the answer, and when I think of Microsoft versus our competitors, I mean they're great, but like you said, they're stitching together a lot of these products together, different companies, and which is great. Don't get me wrong, we want the signals from everybody, right? But I think seamless communication between tools is what customers need and what needs to happen. And so when I look at that, I think then we bring in security or Gen AI. And then I look at the data security of that. And how have you seen that transform through your time in technology, just to be secure where we're at here at Microsoft and what we do with data security versus some of our other competitors?
Oh, yeah, that's such a great question and a great observation, because it's a journey. It's a journey, and just from a security practitioner perspective, like you and I have been for years. Data itself, we know how critical data is now, and I think we've always known that. But we've typically have worked in silos. There was a team that did that. There was a team that worked on data, making things that were secure. The compliance team, no one touched them, no one socialized with them, but we knew they were important because we knew we needed to pass audits or a lot of what the controls that we did from a security perspective, whether it's from an EDR, whether it's from just monitoring, detection, response, had data at the central piece of it. I think it's transformed now where we can't work in silos, and I think we've seen that organizationally as well as within the technology tool sets that we have from security. And I think that's one of the things that you'll see as a benefit with the native security tooling that we have in Azure and M365 is that we're striving for a unified view, integration. And not only with our own products, Microsoft, we're not just doing Azure, we're doing multi-cloud. So on-premise assets or, assets in GCP and services in GCP as well as AWS. But I think the key of everything is that we have to unify it, because you can't have an operational pattern that, in a model that is different for every single environment. You need that consistency because the rate of speed for us to react has to be quicker and for us to really add value in protection. So, but in terms of going back to data security, it's become paramount. Everything that we do in terms of security now, I think, is definitely data centric, focused on the protection of data, the integrity of data, because we know how important that value is to the organization. And so making sure that our frameworks and our tooling have data and that protection in mind. And luckily we're Azure Security, the platform, Defender for Cloud that we talk about is really driven on making sure that we have end-to-end visibility for that data protection.
100%. No, love that as well. And so again, you've been in the field, you've talked to these customers. So what are they saying around their platforms? What are they looking for in their next gen platform to say for security?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think everyone's looking for flexibility, agility, the no one wants to be boxed in, and I think that's a recurring theme, and I've heard it before. It's like, hey, I don't want to be siloed or locked into a particular vendor, and we recognize that, and we've recognized that for years, which is why we've built our platform to be open and integrated with multiple vendors and connectors and APIs and different ways to ingest, but also egress data to different points of services. So, and that's the approach that I like, moving away from the proprietary, non-standards based approach where we now focus on standards, industry standards. So if we're speaking the same language, we're communicating the same, it's easy for us to reconcile and actually make progress in the areas that we need to be make progress on. So we've incorporated a lot of that, and that's really central to what we do from a security perspective with our platform. And we feel that, yes, ideally, it would be great if our companies were all Microsoft, but that's not the reality. We know the reality is that our customers, they want an open, heterogeneous environment where they can integrate with different tooling and use the best of what one tool has and integrate that into their program and their framework so that they can work to achieve their goals. And that's the change that I've seen, is that, from a Microsoft security perspective and what customers are looking for that we speak to is, hey, I want the flexibility, and that, the ability to be flexible and agile with my security approach.
No, I love it. And so let's take a little different turn here. Mm-hmm. So what tools are you specifically seeing in Azure that are making us or putting us in the lead above our competitors?
Such a great question. And I'll put a plug in for Defender for Cloud. I think Defender for Cloud is probably the most powerful tool that we have within Azure. And Defender for Cloud, for those that don't know, the concept behind Defender for Cloud is really pulling in a lot of this data that we have within the environment, within the ecosystem, and providing the ability for operators, for practitioners, for leaders to have good insights from a security posture perspective of everything within Azure, from their infrastructure to applications, to databases, to storage, to identities, and having that in one platform, one centralized platform. And not only that, it's not only good just to have visibility, but having things that are actionable in terms of recommendations and having that compared against frameworks. So it's not just what Microsoft says. It's, hey, what is a NIST framework? If I'm using this, if I'm using PCI, if I'm using MITRE ATT&CK framework to kind of assess where my posture is, my maturity is from a security perspective. You can get that within Defender for Cloud. And then also you have automation that if you want to move forward from a security perspective to make these changes and recommendations to keep that posture consistent, you now have the ability to automate that and provide immediate remediation, which I think is pretty powerful, because we're well beyond the whole manual, operator point click and then waiting for a person or a human to do it. I think we really have to leverage the technology to automate a lot of this. And then also having that baseline consistency. If we're bringing in new resources into the environment, you have a posture as a leader that you like to enforce throughout that, that environment. So with subscriptions being lit up in Azure and everywhere else, GCP, how can you have that reassurance that that server that's being lit up meets the compliance standards or your security standards in that respective environment? So it gives you a peace of mind. I think Defender for Cloud is a differentiator. And then even outside of the tooling, and going back to what differentiates us from AWS and GCP, along with the research and the security engineers that we have, are the services that we have that are available to clients, to customers. The cloud adoption framework is, for example, if customers are struggling with, hey, how do I migrate to the cloud? If I'm on-prem and I need to go to Azure, what's that crawl, walk, run phase? What are those steps that are involved? Or if I'm in GCP and I need to integrate with Azure and I have storage over here and I have applications over here, what pattern do I use for a best practice? The cloud adoption framework has that. We have a security adoption framework if you're looking for architectural patterns and suggestions on how to architect and what a well-designed framework for secure application deployments, for example, no matter what cloud they're in, whether it's in ours or GCP or AWS. We have those patterns to support that. And then landing zones, which is another feature that we have.
Another good one.
If you don't know what to do, you can spin up a landing zone and it'll give you that 1 yard line to 50-yard line for a good blueprint for what a good architecture looks like within Azure. So all of these pieces are available along with the platform, the security, the first native tooling that we talked about, Defender for Cloud, which I think is something everyone should be looking at, because it's not just protection for the resources, but we even get into the coding from a developer perspective, from code to cloud. So protecting you from application, from database storage, identity, as well as the overall platform.
No, I love it. I love it. And then, so being that we have led for a little while in security, or have come up in security, what are some of the improvements that we need to continue? Not necessarily as Microsoft, but as a community, as a security community. What are the improvements that we all can do to be better informed, work better together? Because I believe every company has the exact same goal: securing customers, ensuring there's no phishing attacks, ransomware attacks, anything of the sort. So how do we do that in moving forward?
Such a great question. And I go back to what Brad Smith had said inside of a House subcommittee session about last year after the CrowdStrike incident, and he was brought over to talk about Microsoft's role in how we, in response to the CISSP reviews as well. And he said something to the point where we have an obligation, regardless of the product that you're promoting or selling. We have an obligation to the community, overall, to work together, and I think that's paramount. Yes, we can debate apples and oranges and what product works better than what, but I think overall our customers and the community, and they entrust us to be transparent, on what, to be actionable with feedback that they provide us to improve our services where there's gaps. And I think, just the approach to the way we do rapid development and deployment, and with a lot of those core principles at mind, is a testament to, product improvement and our continuous, efforts to get better. But I think more importantly from a community is, being transparent, having, being open and transparent, living to, adhering to the standards and the frameworks that, that we hold dear from a security practitioner perspective, and integrating and working well with partners. And I think that's a core to Azure as a platform. It's not just an Azure thing or a Microsoft thing. A lot of our products, top down, integrate. They're designed to integrate with other security solutions, specifically in the security side. So that, to me, that tells me that, hey, we have a partnership in principle. That, from a technology perspective, we can give value and we can get value from working with different products and companies, regardless if they're competitors, because at the end of the day, if our customers are not getting the protections that they need, if the community is not getting the value that they need, then no one wins. The only one that wins are the attackers, the ones that are looking to do damage or nefarious things to customers and people. So with that in mind, it's collaboration, it's integration, it's promoting best practices and principles and transparency and innovation, which is key to what we do from a culture perspective at Microsoft.
No, unique. And, love having you on this show. That truly wraps up today's episode with Dr. KJ, but a huge, huge thank you to Unique for sharing your insights and on cloud security, cybersecurity trends. The importance of collaboration is huge. And, I want all the listeners out here, if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the podcast with your network. And so until next time, we'll keep securing tomorrow, one episode at a time. It's Dr. KJ signing off.
Thanks, Todd.